right, Tennessee Titans fans, we are here with CBS Sports laying out who they think the Titans could potentially take between Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward with the first pick in the draft. Expect a lot of videos like this in the coming months because the Titans have the number one pick. So a lot of people are going to be debating what they should do. And so let's see which quarterback should go first, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, CBS.
Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ on this Thursday.
So there you go. They've got the Titans taking Cam Ward first overall. It's kind of where I've been leaning the last
Ryan Wilson's latest mock draft. The Tennessee Titans, as we know, hold the number one overall pick, and Titans need a quarterback. It grew more glaring as the season progressed as Will Levis's production just declined. So the question now is whether Tennessee prefers Miami's quarterback, Cam Ward, or Colorado's Shedeur Sanders at the top of the draft. And in Ryan's latest mock draft, he has Ward actually heading to Tennessee. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is off to Cleveland with the second.
It's interesting to me to hear outside perspectives on what the Titans should do, because when you watch shows like this, I mean, they're not even entertaining the idea of the Titans, A, trading back, or B, taking Abdul Carter or taking Travis Hunter. From an outsider perspective, like, they're not even entertaining that idea. They're viewing it as the Titans need a quarterback, so they're clearly going to take a quarterback. Like, they're not looking into it at all at this point. I know we got a long way to go. Whereas within the Titans fan base, it's like, oh my God, do we take Abdul Carter? Do we trade back? Do we take Travis Hunter? What do we do? You know, and so it's interesting to me to see.
Overall pick as he is expected to join the Browns. For much more NFL draft talk, let's go ahead and welcome in Ryan Wilson and our own Rick Spielman to the show to discuss the top two quarterbacks. And Rick is also helping to be a part of the search for the next Jets general manager. So, guys, let's start with the choice here for Tennessee and what they have at number one. It seems like the choice is to take a quarterback, but maybe that's not the decision that they're going to go. Rick, what are the conversations inside that Titans facility right now that you're hearing with all the moving parts that are kind of going on right now?
Well, I think right now they're just trying to get their GM. That's what I bet he's going to say. I mean, they're looking for their new GM, and I think you have to get that squared away before you can start zeroing in on the draft.
Two things, Jordan. I am doing a head coach search as well. And the other point is I'm in the other building, not the Titans building, so I'm just speculating on what's going to go on. But I imagine right now, because they did let Rand Carthon go on, so they're in the process of putting in a new general manager. I know Chad Brinker is kind of the vice president of football operations, but I imagine that they already have their board initially set. Most teams have their board initially set. But the true process that's going to go on is once they get that general manager in place and get everybody on with Brian Callahan, with Chad Brinker, with the ownership, with the new general manager, whoever that may be, that's when they'll start really diving deep into this quarterback class and see whether it is Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
Ryan, you have the Titans drafting a quarterback and making that move. You have them taking Cam Ward ahead of Shedeur Sanders as the first quarterback off the board. Explain why you think he is the best fit there.
Well, Rick and I were at Will Levis's pro day a couple years ago, and we liked Will Levis, but we weren't sure he was going to be the answer at quarterback for whichever team drafted him. He fell out of the first round.
Well, I think I hate to say that's kind of been a general consensus because hindsight's 2020, and now that things appear to have not worked out with Will Levis, now you're going to have people coming out of the woodwork saying, I never liked him. But, I mean, there were a lot of people that thought the Colts might take Will Levis at, like, the fourth pick in the draft. Like, the narrative now is going to be like, well, we didn't like Will Levis. But at the time, there was some intrigue surrounding Will Levis.
And then the Titans took him with the second pick in the second round, and it hasn't worked out. He got benched with about a month to go in the season. And if you need a quarterback, and the Titans appear to need a quarterback, you don't start Mason Rudolph if you don't. And you're choosing between these two guys. Cam Ward, for me, is a little bigger, and we'll find out exactly how tall these guys are as we get through the draft process. He has a better arm, and he's a better athlete in space.
So let's just read here. The good for Cam Ward, he's a big arm, good athlete. Accurate off-platform throws to all levels, which also scares me because I see some of that Caleb Williams. There's going to be things that he thinks he can get away with at the NFL level because he got away with it at college. Can play out of structure when a play breaks down, going off of that. The bad for Cam Ward is that he needs to get better at playing on time. That's a common thing you're going to hear about Cam Ward. Okay, when the play breaks down, you can run around and you can create, and that's fine. But can you just drop back and pass? Needs to improve going through progressions, can get lackadaisical in pocket, leading to inaccuracy. So,
not to say that Shedeur Sanders isn't good at a lot of those things, but he's not as good as Cam Ward when you talk about the physical traits. Cam can certainly play out of structure and off platform, and sometimes, and Rick would agree with this, sometimes too much. In the NFL, though, I think he has the opportunity to improve on getting the ball out on time. We saw him do that the last month or so of the season, and that's something that Will Levis struggled with from day one until the moment he was benched in Tennessee. He's big, strong, fast, big arm, but he just didn't seem to have a sense in the pocket, and that's something Cam Ward does have.
That's something that I think that's been one of my hesitancies on Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, is that I see some similarities between them and Will Levis. Some of the things that have driven us nuts about Will Levis, these two guys could also be guilty of that. Cam Ward not being good in the pocket, getting kind of not going through his progressions and reads and stuff. And then with Shedeur, to me, I think Shedeur has a tendency, and they're probably going to talk about it, to hold on to the ball too long and to run around and hold the ball so long that he gets sacked for a massive loss. And I think he also has some accuracy issues as well.
But as Rick noted, they got to get the GM situation straightened out, and Brian Callahan's the coach, and they're all going to come to agreement on who this quarterback's going to be. But I would be shocked if they did not get a quarterback in this draft and maybe traded down, for example, and went with a veteran presence, because there's not a lot of veterans to choose from. So that's why I went with Cam Ward. Slightly better than Shedeur Sanders. But, Jordan, we have 105 days to the draft, so we have a lot of time to figure this out.
Yeah, and Ryan, just to follow up with you, this is not a great quarterback class, because if you stack the Cam Ward, you stack Shedeur Sanders, I don't know if they would sure be behind the top three quarterbacks that were taken last year. And you could argue with Penix, you can argue with J.J. McCarthy, and you may even argue with Bo Nix, who was the last quarterback taken at the number 12th overall with the Denver Broncos. So if you need a quarterback this year, and I understand you have the first round pick, and this is what goes on in those draft rooms, is that, Mason Graham is much better at his position than maybe Cam Ward is his. So you end up forced to take a quarterback, but you're leaving some really good players that are probably better at their position.
That's where the Titans are going to have to make their decision. Because he's right. What do you do at first overall if you've got Abdul Carter sitting there and you feel like this guy's a stud edge rusher that we desperately need, but we need a quarterback? Everybody wants to have the number one pick of the draft. For that, you have the freedom to do a lot of different things, but also you have a lot of pressure too
on that draft board. And that's something that the dilemma of a general manager and head coach have to make. So do they need a quarterback? Yes. Can they maybe look at a bridge guy? Can they look at a potential trade? You're going to go through all those scenarios. But if you do end up with Cam Ward, then that's our guy, and let's move forward. But the problem is they're not the best players in this year's draft.
Well, if it is Cam Ward, he will go ahead of Shedeur Sanders, as we mentioned. Let's get to Sanders.
Well, that's in Ryan's model.
In Ryan's model, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And please, let's not put a lot of faith in that. It's early in the process.
I did want to see
let's not
the
make him the
evaluation
guru of the quarterback class this year. Yet.
105 days to go. A lot can play out, as Ryan Wilson mentioned. Shedeur is going second in Ryan Wilson's latest mock draft to Cleveland. Ryan, just break down why this made.
Jordan.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. The good for Shedeur might be the toughest kid in college football. That's good. Better athlete than we give him credit for. One of the best deep balls in college football this season. The bad is too much hero ball at times. I think him and Cam can both be guilty of that. Needs to continue to work on timing. That's what I said. Holds on to the ball too long. Doesn't have arm strength or the athleticism of Cam Ward. So, I mean, we're just going to have to see. Like I said, I think by now we're just under 100 days away from the draft. Titans are going to have their chance to see how much they believe in either of these two guys. But there are some other great players that you'd be passing up on. I don't know, man. We're going to debate this right up until the draft, I'm sure. Let me know what you think in the comments below.